Hey everyone, this is Henry. I'm Henry, and welcome to Henry's Soapbox. A semi-sporadic, episodic diatribe. Will it be important? Kinda. Will it make sense? Maybe. Will it change your life? Probably not. But hopefully it will illuminate, educate, enrage, enlighten, and inform. Today's topic is the taking of Julie's house. Also known as my red pill awakening. Or also known as, wow, our chief and counsel are a bunch of Okay, so, Ross and I were standing in front of Mom and Dad's house on the reserve when we see Tex Ogle, one of the band counselors, drive up to Julie's house, put a notice on the door, and then drive away, not even acknowledging us or looking at us. And Julie's house is only a few feet away, as you can see, so it seemed a little strange. See, this is our chief and counsel when all of this went down. Wait. Okay, hold up. Like, don't you think you should, maybe start a little earlier? Like maybe at the beginning? Oh, okay. In the beginning, there was the void. The entire universe came within a moment. Then, bang. No, hold up, wait. Too far? Not that far. Oh. Yeah, like, maybe just go back, explain who you are, your history, maybe your family's history with the reserve, that sort of thing. Oh. On the 22nd day of the month of December, in an early year of the decade, not too long before our own, I graced the world with my presence. I burst forth into existence, crooning a tune and tap dancing a number like the Nicholas brothers on a cloud of sunshine and rainbows, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, this is me and Mom. This is me and Dad. This is me and Grandpa Pete. Grandpa Pete gave me his Lakota name, Hehaka Galeshka, which was actually his Lakota name, which means spotted elk. So, my Grandpa Pete homesteaded on the Wood Mountain Reserve. He was a famous trick roper and saddle maker. But being a rodeo cowboy, Pete didn't have much time to raise a child, so Dad was actually raised by his grandmother, Julia. Yes, Julie is named after her, both her English and her Lakota name, W.M.L.F.N, or W.M.L.F.N, which means crossed eagle quills. W.M.L.F.N came over with Sitting Bull and his tribe after they defeated Custer in the Battle of Little Bighorn and fled to Canada. W.M.L.F.N had 5 children, but the only ones who are of concern to us right now are Peter and William, or Uncle Bill as we like to call him. Uncle Bill married a woman named Kathleen, and they had 3, maybe 4 children. The only one who is of concern to us right now is this one, Lawrence. Lawrence grew up to marry a woman named Lily, and they had 5 children. The only one who is of concern to us is this one, Stan. Now, Peter shacked up with a cheap floozy who left him shortly after my dad Leonard was born. Peter went on to marry Nancy and have 3 more children. But the only one who is of concern to us right now is this one, Dad's half-sister, Loretta. Still with me so far? Okay. So, in 1992, my dad retired and moved me, Mom, himself, and my dog Puppy to the place that we've been visiting all my life, the Wood Mountain Reserve. A year later, Julie came to live with us, requested her own house here, a few feet away from Mom and Dad's, and life went on. Still with me? Okay. Looking back, I had an idyllic, innocent adolescence, ladies and gentlemen. In the summer, I would pick berries with Mom and Julie, or I would help Dad fix fence, or help him build a corral. But mostly, I would just go for long walks by myself. As a kid, I would endlessly hike these hills, traverse these forests. Then I would watch the deer graze the prairie, or I would come upon the sage grouse doing its dance, and I laughed. What is that, a native accent? What are you doing? I don't know. Whatever, it's offensive and you need to stop. Okay, so anyway, as amazing and unique as growing up here was, ladies and gentlemen, I yearned for more. So when I was 19, I sold everything I owned and ventured forth into the world. And by the world, I mean most of North America.
Anyway, because I was always gallivanting off to some new horizon, I never paid attention to our reserve's politics or policies or the governing of our reserve at all. I would get their quarterly newsletters, or every now and then I would get a legal form about maybe like the land policy or housing policy. I would just check off the little box and was like, sure, fine, whatever, sign, send it back. That's not to say that I thought the chief and council were doing a good job. Quite the contrary. I thought their complete lack of knowledge and experience was plainly obvious. And at their monthly health meetings, they service things like plain bologna sandwiches and soup that was 4 ingredients. Water, just water, hamburger that they boiled. Boiled hamburger. Just boiled hamburger, rice, and frozen veggies. But they seem better than what we had for the last 35 years, and they weren't so blatantly, obviously corrupt, so I didn't really concern myself. Until Ross and I were standing in the front of Mom and Dad's house when we see Travis Ogle pull up to Julie's house, hang something on the door, and then drive away. There! We're back at the beginning. Did you stay with me?
Oh, okay. I see what you did there.
Fabulous. So this paper says that they declared her house abandoned and that we needed to get a hold of the chief. So I immediately drove to the band hall, got a hold of Ellen, and she said that the band council would schedule a meeting. I mean, I was flabbergasted. How could they possibly think that Julie's house was abandoned? It was a lived-in house. And if they were so concerned about it, why didn't they give us a call or, even stop us at any of these like monthly stupid health things? Come over and walk over to us and say, hey, we were just wondering what was going on with your house. But no, they never bothered to try to get in contact with us at all. I mean, this really came out of left field. Especially because everyone on the council was supposed to be our friends or former friends and actual kin. Now this is where you need to know about who was born to who and who comes from which family. See, this is our chief and council when all of this went down, and is actually still our current chief and council after the most recent election. Everyone got to keep their jobs. Funny how that works, huh? This is Ellen, who my dad and Ross first propped into power. This is Travis Ogle. I used to babysit his kids. This is Dave Ogle, who I think is Travis Ogle's brother or cousin or something. I'm not too sure how exactly they're closely related. This is Loretta, Dad's half-sister, daughter of Pete and Nancy, as we saw before. And this is Stan, son of Lawrence and Lily. And logically, I would have thought that any one of these people would or should have been close enough to come up and try to talk to us or let us know if they had any concerns about the house. But they didn't. But okay, whatever. So I wrote a very long letter entitled, "Please Don't Take Our House Away," which you can read on my Facebook page, link in the description. Now this is where shit gets real. So Dad, Julie, and myself go to this meeting with the band council, and I read my letter that I wrote explaining how much these houses mean to us and how they actually are our home. I just assumed this would all be a silly misunderstanding and we would walk away having a good laugh. But after I read my letter, Dave Ogle, who was the housing officer for the band, condescendingly said to me, "Listen, Henry, I'd like a summer home too, but life isn't fair sometimes." I didn't understand how they didn't realize that these houses were placed there for us at our request. There was no other people there and no other houses there before my family lived there. And they were more than just houses. They were our home. But while Ellen, Travis, and Loretta remained silent, Dave and Stan argued about how these were technically the band's houses and they can do whatever they want with them. Dave insisted there wasn't even power at the house. I showed him then current power bills that Julie had just paid.
You're not just wrong, you're stupid. Now wait just a minute.
And they dismissed it out of hand. I told them if they needed someone occupying the house day and night so that they won't declare it abandoned, then I will be that person. I was just trying to get them to not take it. But in their stupidity, they confused it and thought that I had said that the power was in my name and that I wanted to live there, that I wanted that for my house. But I just didn't want them to take it. Then they said that Stan's nephew Zach had specifically requested this house, which they admit to in this article here. It was really then that all of this became clear. These malicious, nepotistic, greedy, backstabbing bastards knew that we were still living in this house. And they knew that if they tried to seize it, Julie would probably not fight back. She's not known for her aggressive demeanor or personality. But they didn't count on me being there. So Dave, Stan, and I argued back and forth, and then finally Ellen got up and said, okay, that's it, guys. I've got this. This is my decision. And then she said, I declare that Julie has abandoned her house. So it's abandoned. You guys have 10 days to get your stuff out. And that was that. So I rolled Dad out of the room. I walked back and said, you know what? You guys are a bunch of motherfucking cunts. And I walked out. You still with me? Okay. So we moved Julie's stuff from her house to Mom and Dad's house next door. And a short while later, there was somebody living in Julie's house. Although it was not Stan's nephew, strangely enough. Instead, it was a member who already had a house on the reserve, but for reasons that I don't need to explain here, needed to move into Julie's house. I can't tell you how much stress, pain, and emotional turmoil this had put our entire family through, but especially Julie. You know, fine. Do what you want to me, but when you hurt my family, that's a whole other ballgame. I was livid. I mean, I wanted to scream from the mountains about the lies and moral wrong that was done to our family. So I wrote a very long and strongly worded letter to the editor. What?
You serious?
I'm Canadian. And I sent that letter to over 27 different news publications across North America. I spread my message as far and wide to anyone who would hear it. I wrote an email to the Five Hills Tribal Council, and when I personally went for a visit, I was met with a very hostile vice chief. I simply wanted to know what options a tribal member has if their chief and council do something against them. But I was brutally rebuffed. She just kept stating over and over again, very angrily, it is not our policy to get involved. It's not our policy to get involved. We don't get involved in the disputes between tribal members and their chief and council. So I walked next door to INAC to see what they could do for me. Unfortunately, our INAC representative was not there that day, so I spoke with one of her colleagues who was familiar with our reserve, and she was very nice. She wrote everything down, took a lot of notes, asked a lot of questions, but by the end of it, she also informed me that it was not INAC's policy to get involved in disputes between tribal members and their chief and council. And as I thought about it, this is when you could say I really took the red pill, ladies and gentlemen.
Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
I awoke to the reality that there were fascist dictatorships growing within Canada and legally being allowed to thrive under the Indian Act, and that my reserve was one of them. I realized the harsh reality that if you live on a reserve in this country, you simply don't have the same rights as other Canadians. I awoke to the reality that if you cannot afford a lawyer for a very lengthy and expensive court process, that there really is no recourse for myself or for thousands of other Native Canadians who find themselves abused, used, exploited by their own leadership. To realize that there's no oversight, that a chief and council can just make up lies out of whole cloth, seize your house, take and destroy your belongings, maybe even kick you off the reserve, and you are powerless to stop them. A few months later, they took Mom and Dad's house. Again, they made no attempt to contact us. They simply posted this notice on the door. Only this time, they didn't schedule a meeting with us, they just went in and started hauling everything we ever owned into the dump. Seriously, it felt like we were in the final number of From Fiddler on the Roof.
After a lifetime, a piece of paper and get thee out.
But you know, there is actually a yin to this yang. If none of this had ever happened, I wouldn't have been ignited with this passion that I feel for our reserve, for my Aboriginal identity, for my Lakota lineage, for my ancestors. Our reserve is unique in its history within Canada. We are descendants of the survivors of the Battle of Little Bighorn. We were Canada's first refugees. And when Sitting Bull decided to return to the States, even though we faced local dejection and starvation, we stayed. There's actually a Heritage Minute about it, starring the wonderfully talented and incredibly versatile Graham Greene.
We will stay here and keep the grandmother's peace. She will let us raise our children. We do not want lies.
I didn't know then that they'd be starved out of Canada and go back to the States. Walsh would resign over it, and Sitting Bull would be murdered.
God, I love Graham Greene, you know? I mean, one moment he's playing my ancestor, then the next moment he's breaking down some forensic files on Exhibit A. Anyway, you know, I realized that there are over 300 enrolled members and I only knew about 15% of them, so I created a Facebook page and website to help connect our members and supporters from around the globe. Link in the description. But today I just wanted to share with you the story of how Julie's house got taken away, and how I woke up to the realization that we have corrupt, greedy, venomous, power-hungry snakes as our chief and counsel, saying that they're doing everything they can for the community while actually lining their own pockets. Jeez, someone is still better. Yeah, just a bit. Well, I mean, look. They kick a 53-year-old woman out of her house and then throw her belongings in the landfill. Why? When we can pay Travis Ogle's sons, aka Old Post Contracting, $250,000 to build a one room addition onto the band hall that we did not need, that we can't even go into, that we maybe use but once a year and is completely empty on the inside. Wait, you know what? I think that's a whole other soapbox rant that I need to go on. Well, listen, our Reserve's annual general meeting is less than a week away, where we get talked at, not talked with, so I'm sure I will have plenty to rant about on my soapbox then. Until next time, I'm Henry, and this has been my very first soapbox rant. And if you're still with me, thank you for listening to me rant. Bye!